if your idea is to become a healthcare professional, a doctor, if that's your purpose, then you just become a doctor. That's it. And whatever is regurgitated is going to be regurgitated and indoctrinated. But when your whole purpose was, I really want to help people, I really want to heal people, when you get to the end of the road and you become a doctor, but you're not actually healing people, it's like, what am I here for?
Wow.
So that's what really changed the story so much, is because every time I got to another pole, it was like, okay, I'm not serving purpose. This isn't getting done what I want to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for many people to make that transition because they spend their whole lives in education becoming a doctor.
Yep.
So now they realize a big part of their life is a lie.
Yep. Not only is it a lie, but what's difficult about it is you've been indoctrinated 10 years. So just think about it. 4 years of undergrad for me, 2 science degrees, 4 years of graduate school, another year or 2 of residency. That's 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years of indoctrination.
And those are prime years too.
Prime years, like your most impressionable years in terms of like you going from a child to an adult. And I think what's also, when I say indoctrination, what I mean by that is when we come out of school and we go through residency and now we have to treat patients, the difficult thing is that what people don't know is that it's literally a guideline to follow that says, if this, then this. If you got hypertension and you're black, and then you get this. If you got diabetes and your blood glucose is this level, you get this. So there's not a lot of thought process in it. There's not a lot of creativity in figuring out what's going on specifically with this patient.
Right.
So as a result of that, that's what you do. You'll notice that a lot of times when you go into a doctor, they ask you a couple of questions. They type it into a system. It regurgitates what they should give you.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, there's a lot of good doctors out there, but the other thing is it opens you up to malpractice if you don't follow those guidelines.
Wow. I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't understand that. So it's very difficult to operate within the system sometimes because you have all these things that are saying, all right, this is what I taught you. This is what I told you to do. And then when you don't do it, these are the consequences.
Yeah, and that must have been so frustrating with you because you would want to help these people, but you had to give them a certain prescription.
Trying to figure out how to tell them to do something without incriminating myself. Or because specifically for me, I got diagnosed with high blood pressure when I was 16.
Damn, that's early.
And I was an athlete, 7% body fat, great in football, great in basketball. Went on to college to play basketball as well too, but I got diagnosed when I was 16. Lived with it for over a decade. Finally become a healthcare professional in the hospital. I'm taking medications in my late 20s.
Wow.
And essentially what happened was at that point, it's like, okay, I'm trying to give people advice. I'm trying to tell people how to heal themselves, but I haven't healed myself yet. And so that's when the journey actually started for me, was like, all right, so how do I heal myself? Because everybody, pretty much every other person who comes in here has high blood pressure.
Right. So it's kind of ironic you're giving them advice and medication, right?
Yeah. I felt like a hypocrite.
Yeah. So did you find out what caused it?
Well, it was a lot of factors. Like for me, I had a very, and we talked about it earlier, but I had a very troubling childhood. By the time I was 12 years old, I had witnessed a friend kill another friend with a bat.
Damn.
My best friend and cousin, he was killed in a police chase. I lost all of my grandparents by the time I was...
As a B2B marketer, you know how noisy the ad space can be. If your message isn't targeted to the right audience, it just disappears into the noise. With LinkedIn ads, you could precisely reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant with LinkedIn targeting capabilities. You can reach them by job title, industry, company, and more. Stand out with LinkedIn ads and start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. LinkedIn ads allows you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. You'll have direct access to and build relationships with decision makers. 1 billion members are on their platform, 180 million senior level executives, and 10 million C-level executives. You'll be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools built specifically for B2B in technology. LinkedIn generated 2 to 5x higher return on ad spend than any other social media platform, and you'll work with a partner who respects the B2B world you operate in. 79% of B2B content marketers said LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. LinkedIn has been a great platform for me to also find interesting podcast guests. If you're interested, start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/social to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/social. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
I was 15.
Whoa.
And I was very much in love with my grandmother. Like, she was my backbone. And so a lot of it was trauma, like unresolved trauma. But the other part was this unhealthy sort of culture of food.
Right.
You know, and it's unfortunate, but like, especially, you know, in the African-American culture, like, our food kills us. And when you look at the food that is in our neighborhoods and underserved neighborhoods, it's mostly fast food restaurants.
Right.
You know, when you look at the grocery stores, like, what's available? It's not the same things that are available in good neighborhoods. And so as a result of, I was living that, I was eating that. And then I took those habits, you know, on to college or whatever. But that was really the baseline and foundation of why I started to get hypertension. It was a combination of unresolved trauma, but also eating essentially the standard American diet.
Right. And that's one of the worst diets in the world, right?
Worse. By far. Like, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but America's food is banned in over 30 countries.
Jeez.
And I'm talking about some of the major food groups. Chicken, banned in other countries. Dairy, banned in other countries. You know, pork, banned in other countries.
Wow.
Corn, banned in other countries. So when you start to go down our food list, our food is banned here. And it's mostly because of how that food is processed, how those animals are treated. And when I say treated, I'm not talking about do they get a pet on them or something like that. I'm talking about what happens when they feed the animal. Most of these animals are getting genetically modified corn and soy. That's not what they're designed to eat. You know, a lot of the animals are treated with a lot of arsenic or put in their feed, like chickens. Ractopamine is put in the feed of pigs, all to make them bigger and grow. They're fed antibiotics, hormones. So you start to see why our food is so, you know, toxic.
Right.
You know, and then you look at, you know, everything else on the shelf. Most of it has food chemicals in it. You know, thickening agents, emulsifiers, preservatives, red number 3, red number 40, yellow number 5, all of these things. Nobody knows what they are. But because I have a chemistry background, all of these things, I have a definition for them. As soon as I see them, I know what it's used for on the synthetic side of chemistry. But it should never be used on the organic side of chemistry, which is us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, those food dyes, man. As a kid, you just eat those thinking it's just, you know, normal, but those are now proving to cause diseases. So.
Yeah, and not only diseases, but ADD, ADHD. We'll talk about this as well, but red number 3 and red number 40 also feminize young boys and men as well, too.
It lowers testosterone levels?
Not only lowers testosterone levels, but elevates estrogen in the body.
Wow.
And that's really important because we look at this stuff and we think to ourselves, well, they put the red number 3 and red number 40 in there to make it red, you know, to give it this appearance where it looks good.
Yeah.
Because if you take the food chemicals out, the food not only doesn't look edible, but it doesn't taste that way either.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, and I lived in Japan for like 4.5 years, and I would watch TV, and one of the programs they had on there was that they would have like Japanese kids like taste testing American food, and they would be eating like Pop-Tarts and be like, it tastes like cardboard. But it's because our taste buds are so immature and so they're so in alignment with what processed food is because we grow up on that. Like that's the foundation of what most, as a matter of fact, if you look at somebody who's less than 25 years old, for the most part, if you live in America, most people have grown up, 70% of their diet has been processed food.
Jeez, that is insane.
That's the standard American diet, 70%.
So when you were living in the blue zone, it was probably the opposite, right? You were probably eating 80% natural.
Yeah, so I lived in Okinawa, Japan, and that was how that experience came about was amazing because I had started my journey in the hospital and finally got to a point where I healed myself of my high blood pressure. I was 50 pounds overweight, sleep apnea, et cetera. And then out of the blue, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to function within the system. You know, I was having people who were coming up there, like asking me for like the natural prescription and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, I just realized I wasn't going to be able to survive in the system. And so I literally left my job and was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And out of the blue, I get this opportunity to go to Okinawa, Japan. And I had been reading a book called Ikigai, which means in Japanese to find your purpose in life. And so when the opportunity came, I'm like, this is perfect because Okinawa is a blue zone. And a blue zone is essentially one of the 5 zones in the world where people live the longest. They have the highest amount of centenarians. And so I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity. I could actually see what it looks like to live a long life.